Internet, I'm Elliot the Purple Hair Doofus, and welcome back to Pest Control. This is what my notes look like for a normal recording. This is what my notes look like for this recording. So as you can see, we have a lot to get through, so let's get right to it, shall we? We are covering chapters 10, 11, and 12. If you haven't read those yet, get to it right now. Last video, I missed an important detail. After Ramon was killed, Miguel decided to hire 4 hitmen to go after Bob. The 4 hitmen ask him, how much are you going to pay for this job? And Miguel says, $1 million. And the 4 hitmen said, each? Are you crazy? No. All split. And then the main hitman turns around and shoots one of them. Now it's down to 3 hitmen. And those 3 hitmen go to New York to kill Bob. And now you're caught up. And now we're in chapter 10. Bob goes to a new building to release strain 3 of his assassin bugs. He's walking around New York City looking for this location, not remembering the name of it, but knowing that it has something to do with where it is located, like the town or community or little section of the city. And then he remembers. No Soho! That's the name of the place. Apparently this was a restaurant that was thought to be very brilliant, but the food was disgusting, so it was shut down. Bob finds this place because there's a sign that says not so hot. Bob goes into the building and spends so much time there that he forgets that his car is parked in a timed parking space. And he is ticketed because he is 17 minutes late. Bob sits in his car and has a momentary spiral of depression. And it is a very, very dark few paragraphs. That spiral of depression soon kind of gathers him back up into the dreamlike state where he's like, I'm a dreamer, I deserve a beer. Bob walks into the bar with a handful of cash and he says, but what if a beer is $2.50? I've only got $2.48. I can't even tip the guy and I would be 2 cents short of an actual beer. I should leave. What do you want, buddy? Nothing. As he's about to leave, a voice tells him that he will buy him a beer. Bob turns and sees Klaus. But he doesn't know Klaus. So Klaus introduces himself. Hello, I am Kurt Schickling. And of course Bob Dillon introduces himself and awaits the barrage of Bob Dillon jokes. And when he doesn't get them, he even introduces them to Klaus. And Klaus replies, I'm sorry, I do not know this man or singer. Maybe he is foreign to me? And Bob and Klaus have a sit down and they talk. And Klaus slowly realizes that Bob is not a hired hitman. Bob is actually a exterminator. A bug exterminator. He kills bugs for a living, not people. Bob shows Klaus a picture of Mary and Katie. And Klaus begins to feel very, very depressed. And Klaus says, I will never have anything like that. You are so lucky to have a family that cares about you. Bob begins to drive home, and he is feeling like he's not giving a shit about anything. And the 3 hitmen kind of drive up behind him, and they pull out their guns out of the windows to show that they are going to kill Bob. And Bob just waves them the one-fingered salute. The 3 hitmen obviously don't take the hint, speed past him, turn around, and blind him with their headlights. As they're getting out of the car, Bob hears 3 pew pew pew, and the 3 men drop dead. And then Bob sees this figure coming through the headlights, and it's just a silhouette. And Bob drops to his knees, cowering, pleading, telling him that he doesn't want to die. And then Klaus says, get up, my friend. Kurt? Is that you? My name is Klaus. And I'm not exactly here on business. Klaus explains that he is a hired hitman, and he came to New York to kill Bob, but he's found that Bob is a very good guy, and he doesn't want to kill Bob. And so Klaus and Bob go to a local Quickie Mart type place to buy a beer and enjoy it in the night sky. Once they walk into the Marty type place, it's mugged by 2 punks. And Klaus takes them out with ease. Only he doesn't kill them, he just incapacitates their joints and hands and everything like that. Klaus and Bob go out into the lake and look up at the stars and start talking about their life. And Klaus explains how lucky Bob is to have a woman and a child that loves him, because he can never have that being a hired hitman, and how that bond can never be something that he has because his enemies would kidnap his loved ones and use them against him. The next chapter begins with Miguel being super pissed about his 3 hitmen being taken out so easily by this Bob the Exterminator guy. So he holds another press conference and raises the stakes. He puts a $10 million hit on Bob's head. And of course, every hired hitman in the world hears this news, and they all start flooding towards New York City. Klaus heads home after his heart-to-heart with Bob, only to find his debt collector is back in his home. And his debt collector has brought henchmen. The henchmen grab onto Klaus and hold him tight, and use a shocker against him, and tell him that if he doesn't pay him back, he's going to die a slow, painful death. So Klaus is determined to go back to New York City to collect on the $10 million bounty on his friend's head. Mary and Katie are trouncing around in the woods, and they are looking for bugs. Mary is trying to ask Katie what kind of bugs Bob had the exoskeletons to on his desk in his bug room. Why do you want to know, Mommy? Oh, no reason. I just thought it would be nice to collect them for no uncertain reason. So what were they? What do you mean, were, Mommy? Let's not worry about the tense of the words that I'm using and just answer the question, shall we? And then Katie shows off her knowledge of bugs and her knowledge of everything bug-like that she got from her father. Katie and Mary continue to look for these bugs in the forest. The first of the unknown assassins to arrive in New York is the Nigerian, a very tall, imposing black man. Bob goes into another building that is guarded by an old security guard. How you doing, buddy? You better watch it. I have a trigger finger, and I would have killed you, Bart. As you can see, the older gentleman is hard of hearing, and if you can just walk up to him and say hello, he is very, very jittery. It's almost as if he needs to cut back on his caffeine. Having been a security guard myself, I know exactly what that's like. You're always in that silent area, so that one special noise will really scare the crap out of you. Bob releases strain number 4 in this abandoned building, and hopes and prays that this is the one to do the job. Remember earlier on when Marcel and Chantel were talking about assassins that could fulfill the Hewler job, and I mentioned an uncouth American? Guess who's just arrived in New York City? Bob gets done with his job and he desperately wants to sit down on the subway, but when he gets there, his old crazy friend Norman is the only person with a vacant seat next to them. So rather than to take a seat next to crazy Norman, he stands. Remember how I just mentioned Chantel? Guess who's arrived in New York City? Yeah, New York has become the haven of hitmen, and they are all there to kill Bob. Bob is at home thinking about how much he misses Mary, and he starts writing very, very bad limericks to Mary to apologize. The problem that I found with the limericks were they were all mentioning what he did wrong and what they were fighting about more than how much he loves her. And that's the only problem I was having with them. But that just goes to show how much of a poet I am not. Because the writer was explaining how bad the poetry was. And I was just like, ugh, I am very, very bad at pointing out bad poetry. Klaus is on a flight back to New York City, contemplating how he's going to kill this man that he befriended the last time he was here. A little dwarf man named Reginald is another hired hitman that arrives in New York City and unpacks all of the little girly dresses, size 0, 1, and 2, for his little exploits. Klaus is watching Bob and has Bob right in his crosshairs as Bob is sitting at a cafe, and he is trying to justify killing Bob. Because the last thing that Klaus really wants to do is kill someone that doesn't deserve it. But then his depression kicks in, And he says, you know, if you kill someone that doesn't deserve it, well then you would be completely justified in turning the gun on yourself. And you could end all of this depression. And you could just die. And I'm just kind of like, no, don't do that. No, please, please, please don't do that, please. As he's just about to kill Bob, has him in his sights, and is just about resigned to do this thing that he really doesn't want to do. Hey! Hey, get out of there! Get out of the way! A passerby blocks his view, and he doesn't see Bob for a few seconds. And then when the passerby goes away, Bob is no longer sitting where he's supposed to be. As Bob is sitting in the cafe, the lovely Agent Wolf appears to talk to him. And Wolf asks if he knows everything that's going on. Going on? What do you mean? Well, you know, with the bounty on your head and everything. The $10 million on your head right now? $10 million? Are you crazy? Are you insane? You're gonna play it like that. So you do know everything. And I'm guessing you know about Klaus, too. The Hitman? Yeah, we met yesterday. How do you know Klaus? Oh, I don't know him either. Later. And Agent Wolf leaves. Bob is at a payphone, and he drops a quarter in to call Mary. And he's just about to give up on his dream when a familiar voice is right behind him. Pest? Really, Bob? It's Mary! And she is quoting one of his bad limericks that he wrote to her. And all of a sudden, all the pages are getting, like, blurry. I really start to tear up when the family gets back together and they're all hugging, and it's just... it's such a touching scene! And I cried for at least 3 pages. It's just like, I'm so happy! But it's not long before the action gets back in. And Klaus sees the happy family reunion, but he also sees 2 men moving their way in to do away with Bob. Klaus decides that Bob is worth saving and incapacitates the men. One of them is under his car, putting a bomb under the transmission, and the other one is going towards a cafe. Klaus shoots the one under the car in the kneecaps, and he shoots the guy going towards the cafe in the head. Of course, everyone in the cafe hears gunshots and hits the floor. Bob suggests that his car is right outside in the alley, and they should just hop into it and go home. Mary reminds Bob that the shooting is going on outside, so maybe that's not the best idea right now. But eventually they do go outside, and they get to the car, and they see the windshield is all busted up, and the tires are all blown out. And then another car screeches at the end of the alley, and it's Klaus. And Klaus says, "Get in the car!" And Mary and Katie don't know who this guy is, but Bob does. And Mary and Katie don't want to get with this guy. And Klaus screams, "Get in the car now, Bob!" And Bob says, "Okay, we'll get into the car." And Mary says, "How the hell does that guy know your name?" And they run to the car, and they get inside. And it's this action-packed chase scene for like 3 or 4 pages. And it's awesome. And the whole time, Katie is in the back seat. Wow! Kaboom! Yay! Oh, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. Because her car blew up. And Katie asks the most important question of all. Does this mean we get a new car? Oh, how I love Katie. She is so adorable. So very, very adorable. Another assassin arrives in New York. His name is Ch-ing, and he is known as the Asian assassin. Klaus eventually slows down the car, and he is explaining to Mary everything that has happened. And Bob is trying to insert his little asides into the story as best as he can. Klaus plans to drive them to an airport as fast as possible so that they can get the hell out of Dodge. Mary says, "When can we come back? Can I go to my place? I need to get stuff." "No, you can't go to your place. Everyone knows where you live. Are you crazy? Are you insane? Are you crazy, lady?" And then Mary turns to Bob and she kind of touches her neck and she mouths the words. And Bob turns to Klaus and says, "You know, there is something very, very important that we need to get from home." And Klaus has this idea that I find just moronic and brilliant at the same time. He's at a stoplight, and the Nigerian gets out about 1.5 blocks away. And Klaus sees the Nigerian get out, and Klaus sees the Nigerian pull out his weapon, ready to fire on anyone that gets in his way. Klaus turns to Mary and says, a landmark. Tell me a landmark now. Mary says, the aqueduct. Fine, the aqueduct. Go to there in 5 hours. We meet you there. Promise. Okay. And then Bob and Klaus get out of the car. Mary and Katie move up to the front seats and start driving away. While Bob and Klaus kind of tease the Nigerian away from Katie and Mary. Klaus and Bob are running away, and Bob says, I know the perfect place. We can just dive right in here. It's an abandoned building. And I know exactly where he's going. He's going into one of his abandoned buildings and he's filled with bugs. And he unlocks the door and they run inside. And Bob says, hold on, I just gotta check on my bugs. Are you crazy, Bob? You brought me here to check on your bugs? We don't have time for this. We have to get out of here now. I don't think you understand the importance of getting away from this man. He's going to kill you. Do you understand that? Yeah. It'll take like 30 seconds and then we're gone. I swear. Bob checks on his bugs and finds that, well, the bugs that he created actually mated with the cockroaches, creating a third set of bugs that were both cockroaches and cockroach killers. And so they kind of killed themselves. They were like suicide bugs. And the building was just jam-packed with dead bugs. Unfortunately, none of those dead bugs were cockroaches. They were all this third set of bugs. And Bob just feels like an idiot. Klaus is trying to hurry him along, trying to say, get, we have to go right now, go. Going is what we're doing. Bob is trying to put one of the ceiling tiles up when the Nigerian turns around the corner and knocks the gun out of Klaus's hand. And the Nigerian has both the guns now. And he's got them pointed both at Bob and Klaus. The Nigerian looks at Klaus and says, you are getting soft. I am not getting soft. I am just following my rules. Why him? Why is it him that lives? No reason. It's very short and explained. And Bob is standing there with the tile above his head and he says, oh, there's a reason. You tell him the reason. I think you should tell him the reason, Klaus. And the Nigerian looks away for a split second, giving Bob just enough time to lower the tile and throw it at the Nigerian. The Nigerian is covered in icky bugs as they all get in his shirt and pants and it's all over. And he strips off his pants as fast as he can, and Bob and Klaus are already out the door. Klaus and Bob are running through the alley when Klaus says, this is useless. We have no weapons. We have nothing to kill this man with. Are you kidding? We're in New York City. It's the biggest weapon in the world. We will just use the city. And I start imagining like Rube Goldberg type twists in this little plan of Bob's. Bob and Klaus have the Nigerian chase them into a restaurant that is filled with mobsters. The Nigerian runs through in just his underwear because all of the bugs were all in his clothes and he wanted them off his body as quickly as possible. All of the mobsters see the Nigerian's weapon and they say, ooh, it's a hit! And they all stand up. And they all pull out their own weapons. And they all start firing at the Nigerian. And the Nigerian goes down. And that's how this section ends for today. Today's question is probably a very simple one for many. If you had to go back to your home for only one item to take with you if you were to be fled from the city because you were being attacked, what would that one item be? Answer that question down below, and I will give you my answer tomorrow. Speaking of answers, I have to give you the answer from the question yesterday, which was, what is your passion? I believe I've said it many times before, but I'll reiterate it now. My main passion, my driving passion in life is storytelling. I love to tell a good story. I love to tell other stories. I love to tell a story that people are so engaged in that they listen to my every word. But I believe this video is going to be way too long already, so I'm going to end it there. Do not forget that next week's book is going to be The She-Hulk Diaries by Marta Acosta. Go out and buy it by any legal means necessary. Buy it at a bookstore, rent it at a library, borrow it from a friend, get it on a Kindle, get the audiobook. I don't care what you do as long as it's legal. I have been the Purple Hair Doofus, reminding you to watch your pretend movies, and I will see you all in the conclusion of Pest Control by Bill Fitzhugh. Toodles!